Hello everyone, I'm honored to introduce our financial derivative solution designed to achieve the UN SDG goal. Today I will cover three parts. First, the link between the derivatives and SDGs. The second part, our product design and feasibility. Third, conclusion. The future was originally used for trading wheat and various commodities. By buying and selling, participants can hedge against the price fluctuations and mitigate risks. Later, a growing number of assets, including stocks and Bitcoin, became underlying assets of the derivatives. However, the emergence of the derivatives is generally driven by market demand rather than the social good. We are planning to design a derivative product that align with the UN SDG goals. Providing a good education to people around the world is one of the SDG goals. Educated people are more likely to escape poverty and contribute to the poverty alleviation. We are planning to design several derivatives centered around education. These products will help impoverished students obtain higher education and promote education in underserved areas. Before diving into our designs, it's important to recognize why education is especially suited for the derivative innovation. Unlike commodities or financial assets, education has both private and public value. The students benefit personally through higher income, while society benefits through reduced inequality, higher productivity, and social cohesion. This dual value makes education a unique candidate and for financial innovation, where derivatives can serve not only investors but also communities. Second one, education financial derivatives design. We have designed three types of products, addressing different scenarios. The first derivative is the student's future income swap agreement. The buyer is required to fund the student's higher education expenses, while the students share a portion of their future income with the investors. This type of swap is superior to student loans because students do not face high debt burden and face a smaller impact on their future lives. From a feasibility perspective, the future education market has a huge potential, but only well families can afford the higher cost. Derivatives that share the future earning have a substantial market and have already seen a successful implementation in Europe. The European Union and the European Investment Fund are already implementing these education benefit sharing derivatives, and many students have experienced support. However, it's worth noting that the shared future earning can pose moral hazard. Government regulation is necessary, and the students should be given the right to buy back their future earning in a lump sum. It's also worth mentioning that such agreements are not purely theoretical. In countries like Germany and the UK, income share agreements have already been applied. The real-world cases provide useful data on repayment patterns, student satisfaction, and investor interest. Learning from this example, we can adapt the model to better fit developing countries where access to education remains a major barrier. The second type of derivative is education price future. Both education providers and buyers need to participate in education future. Universities often complain about insufficient funding, while buyers notice rising tuition fees. Government and the public also question the lack of transparency in university pricing. If we develop an education price future system, parents who pay for their children's education can lock in prices earlier through the future trading. University can also use the price of the education future to estimate future education format and costs and formulate the reasonable budgets. The difficulty in implementing this derivative lies in the fact that education encompasses so many aspects. making it difficult to develop a reasonable price index. However, if we simply use university prices as a representative index, a more definitive price index can be formed. Education prices are a relatively abstract product, and without sufficient investor participation, it's difficult to establish market pricing. Therefore, when setting education prices future, regulatory authorities are required to provide price guidance. Here it is important to highlight that the average annual education inflation rate over the past 20 years has been 2.8%. This number reflects increasing financial burden of families and the difficulty universities face a balancing budget. Future contracts can help stabilize these pressures, creating predictable for both sides. The final derivative is education bonds. Institutions that contribute to local education can issue these bonds to earn lower interest rates. Furthermore, the interest rate on this bond can be linked to local education development. If local education development meets requirements, these institutions can contribute to receive low-interest funding. However, if these institutions' contributions to local education are poor, they will receive a higher punitive interest rate. This benefits local education and encourages university and international educational institutions to assume the great social responsibility. In practice, there are many successful examples of education bonds, such as green bonds. Only companies that meet a sustainable standard can issue green bonds and enjoy lower interest rates. If they deviate from sustainable goals, the interest rate on green bonds will increase. The same is true for education bonds. If institutions adhere to the goal of helping local education development, they can easily achieve this success. The relative difficulty lies in objectively assessing the level of local educational development, which requires relatively comprehensive evaluation criteria. Today, socially responsible investing, or SESG, is becoming a global trend. Education bonds can be positioned as a type of a social impact investment. This means investors are not only seeking returns but also contributing to improving the local education. This dual benefit increases the attractiveness of education bonds in the international markets. In general, these education derivatives can, at various levels, help individuals obtain a quality education and improve the overall education level in their local area. However, education is a relatively abstract concept and it requires long-term implementation. Therefore, government involvement is necessary to provide objective assessment of their price and quality of education. Furthermore, because education is both profit-making and a public welfare undertaking, a practical application of derivatives may present significant moral hazard. For example, students receiving support must disclose their personal information and income to investors in the income swap. Therefore, while implementing education derivatives, government funding should be the primary source of participation, and the regulators should legislate to prevent moral hazard. If these derivatives significantly benefit education, this consideration should be given to the participation of institutions and individual investors. Looking further ahead, educational derivatives will only succeed with strong government involvement and international cooperation. Governments can provide guarantees, set fair regulations, and encourage cross-border initiatives. For example, funds from the developed countries could be pooled to support students in developing regions, ensure fair access and transparent governance. Beyond education, we can also imagine similar structures applied to other UN SDG goals such as healthcare and clean energy. For example, health outcome swaps could allow investors to fund community clinics, with return linked to the measurable health improvements. Likewise, renewable energy future could stabilize price for the clean energy project and encourage households to shift to sustainable electricity. These ideas show that logic of derivatives share risk and stabilizing the future expectation can be repurposed from pure profit making to achieving long-term social good. Finally, it's important to emphasize that narrative shift derivatives are often viewed as tools of speculation of crisis. But by aligning them with SDG goals, we can reshape their image as instruments of social innovation, such as microfinance once redefine access to credit for the poor. Educational derivatives could redefine access to higher learning for millions of students worldwide. Thank you. This is all I talked today.